Well, I want to just start by saying it is my honor and pleasure to be here to celebrate your anniversary with you and to honor you for your passion, your perseverance, being a part of the coaching community, and the difference that we're all working to make on this planet. So thank you. I'm full of gratitude and just happiness to be here. You know, any type of mastery, we learn the fundamentals and then we practice it to where we get to a point where we don't have to think about it anymore. And that's the essential piece for MCC. So when we say presence, what we mean is that you can be fully present and not thinking, that you're just going with the ebb and flow of the conversation with the client. It's a spontaneous interaction based on what they give you, and you give back. So you're not trying to remember questions or think, am I hitting the competencies? You are, because they're in your bones. So really the critical factor is the quality of the presence you bring to the conversation. Um, for me also, in my development over the years of trying to get things done correct, and then just trusting that I know enough, that my presence, that they know that I'm there for them, that I believe in their capability, and I allow the coaching process to unfold. That took me a while. To get to the point where I could feel that. So before that, there were times I felt, oh, that was a good session, or times I felt, oh, I should have said this, and then I would judge myself. When I finally got to whatever happens is the right thing, then all of a sudden my coaching got better and the results were better, and it was more exhilarating for me that to be in that moment with them when they have that breakthrough, to feel it, and to go with them on this journey keeps the spark alive in me as well as whatever I'm sparking in them. So I think that the more you practice and really move forward on your path of mastery, the more exciting and fulfilling coaching is. Family and friends are my teachers. It's more difficult for me to be present with them. you know, um, Family is always difficult. There's maybe somebody you connect with, but like my sister and I really struggle. But being with her helps me to practice no judgment, to remember that she's doing the best she can with what she knows, and we're just in different places. And she's the older sister and has to be the older sister. So, I let her be in that space. Not always. But I practice presence and empathy, compassion, and no judgment with my family. My friends, it's interesting. I enjoy being with them, but I have a friend staying with me for 3 months. And I found myself getting very short with him. It's like you're not putting things away the right way. I have my way of living and you're kind of in my space. And I'm like, here's this person I've known for 40 years. I love him dearly. And I said, what is it really that bothers you so much? And I realized I had an expectation that he would fill in this gap of what I don't have. But my disappointment, I had shifted to he's wrong. And when I realized I'm just disappointed because he's not the person I wanted him to be, then I could let go of that, and just allow him to be him. He loves life. He loves to laugh and appreciate the energy he does bring to the space. So my friends and family are my teachers, that truly help me to get present to life, not just coaching. I'm so lucky and I'm so grateful for where I live. And the funny thing, I've taught in 43 countries. I've traveled all over the world. You found a picture of me in Korea, yet I still live in the town I was born. And I've thought, maybe I should move. But every time I think about it, it only lasts about that long. And then I remember I'm in this beautiful space, and where I live now is just a few minutes away from a trailhead into the mountains, into the desert. Even though I'm in the middle of town, people don't realize that we have all these trails and places to hike right in the city. And so my routine, if I start to feel tense or tired, is I put on my hiking boots and I go out into the desert. And it's like a walking meditation that I can just be there. And you have to be present in the desert, especially in the summer. There could be snakes. So you can't be like thinking somewhere else. You've got to be very present to your surroundings. And when I'm that present, then I can always see the beauty in this place that I live, that I'm so fortunate to be always able to come home to here. So the presence and the gratitude is my routine. So I don't have like a morning routine other than I get up and I listen to some podcasts when I make my coffee. I don't do, like a morning meditation. I don't have that. But I have the desert anytime I want it, which is really nice. And I do exercise every day. So I can stay healthy and have a lot of energy. And yeah, that's really important. Mhm. At this point, I mean, it's been nearly 30 years since I went to coaching school. So at this point, I give myself just a few minutes to sit down and imagine the person. And because I don't take notes during coaching, so there's nothing to read. I do a lot of mentoring. So like I just did a mentoring session this afternoon, and I did have to briefly go over the notes, the key things that I wanted to discuss with her, but that's different. So for coaching, it's just get in my head, who is it I'm talking to? That's all I need, because whatever they bring, it's not going to be the same thing they brought last time. So I never think it's going to be an extension. I always am curious, where are you today? What's most on your mind today? And I just go with that. So it works. Yeah. Now, I do have a very comfortable chair room. I learned what was distracting me. When I first created this coaching space, I thought, oh, I'll be by the windows in the mountains. Okay. And I thought, yeah, that's nice. But I had no idea that during the day, when there's a lot of the humans are gone, the animals come in. The coyotes and there's hawks around the mountains looking for the little mice. And one day we have road runners, these birds, they have the Roadrunner cartoon with the coyote. Well, road runners are real birds. We have them. There's a lot of them here, road runners and quails. And they eat the little snakes. And I was coaching, and all of a sudden this road runner ran up on I have rocks in my yard, and started beating a snake on my rocks. And I'm like, I can't coach right now. I have this National Geographic documentary going on in front of me. So we talked about that and we laughed, and I realized I can't appreciate nature while I'm coaching. So, you kind of learn what space you need um, as you go along, and hopefully you have choices. Although that's one of the fastest growing groups of coaches in the world are internal coaches and companies wanting to have coaching cultures. There's still so many people and so many companies that have no idea of coaching and the value of coaching. You would hope, I would have hoped, they would all know by now that I taught leadership in companies for 16 years before I found coaching and started teaching. And when I found coaching, I'm like, oh, all leaders should have two things: emotional intelligence and know how to use a coaching approach to conversations, because they're always looking at engagement. We need to engage. They do engagement surveys. We need to engage the employees. They need to feel like they belong. Well, but when you're constantly telling them what to do, they don't. They feel separate. But being able to just use a coaching approach, to be curious, to care about the person, how they see things, what is it they need? How can I help them see beyond where they see today? Just that. There's been a few companies I've worked for where they actually tested engagement scores of leaders who did that and leaders who did not. And the engagement scores were so much higher, where the leaders used a coaching approach. I think that, and my hope is that it continues to grow around the world. And even here, we don't have that many companies. When I talk to people, they still have no idea what I'm talking about. That we do survive, our economies survive on business. We have to engage and have people happier, being where they're at. And people, they know people don't leave companies, they leave managers. So can the leaders move into that space, not just use the skills, but know the energy they have to bring? It's a value. They have to value people, though. That was also a problem that I saw. I worked for tech companies for 11 years, that they would often promote people who didn't like people. I'm like, don't make somebody a leader if they don't like people. Because then you're just, again, you're creating disconnection. And then the best people leave. The best people leave because they can get a job somewhere. Your mediocre people or people that don't perform that well, they don't leave. It's the best people. So this is how we retain the best, we sustain positive change. All of that has been proven, that using a coaching approach in companies really makes a difference. HR should all be proficient in coaching skills. There have been a number of companies where I went in and I taught them, actually, the first level of like a certification program, taught them how to coach because they needed to be the models for coaching. So it was the HR leaders, the learning and development leaders, the talent managers, and always some of the more progressive leaders wanted to be a part of it too. And I was just like so great because then they could, weed coaching into the culture themselves. They didn't need me to do it, but they needed to be the ones that were up front. So that's how HR people prepare. They need to get certified as a coach. So, the most significant risk for any positive change in program is uh, um, when things go wrong, crisis. What I always saw in companies is we would be implementing really strong programs, things were changing, and as soon as there was a crisis, the leaders would go back to bad behavior. And they would use the crisis as an excuse. It's like, nope, don't have time for that coaching. We just got to tell people what to do. At the time when you need everybody to jump on the boat and help row the boat is the time you start pushing them away. There used to be an old saying, it was based on a book. I can't remember the title, but there was a thing about, you want to hire the right people to put on the bus. And I always said, no, you need the people who will be on the bus when the bus breaks down. They'll get out and help you fix the bus, and a lot of times they won't if they don't feel engaged. So I think the greatest risk is that whenever there's a sense of a crisis, that all good behavior goes out the window, and leaders go back to telling people what to do and being authoritarian and making things worse. If there's coaching in the environment, hopefully HR or if they hire outside coaches that are working with the leaders, that they can work them through this. I've worked with a number of leaders in very difficult times when they were being sold, when they were in transition, and looked at, so what is the outcome you want? What is it you need from people right now? How can you best get that? So I think that's the time that these leaders really need a coach. So they can, pull their people through the fire and back to stable ground. Well, that's an interesting thing because back in those days when that book came out, they were looking at promotions still were skill-based. And again, like I said, and I worked for tech companies for years and they promoted a lot of people who should not have been promoted. They made lousy managers, and so there's more of a dimension that you want to measure in people. But coaches can help people to develop other sides of them. So like, there's been a number of times where I've had clients that were leaders. They wanted to be promoted, but their peers, not the people who work for them, but their peers didn't like them because they were too arrogant and were always stopping and telling people what they knew, or they were judging their peers, not the people that work for them, but their peers. And it was really interesting. This one time, this woman was told by her boss, I'm not going to promote you until your peers on your leadership team see you as a leader. And so our conversations were not, what are you doing? I know what she's doing. But I kept saying, define leader for me. How do you see what is supposed to be a good leader? You're now in a new environment. What are the expectations of leaders here? How do you think your colleagues would define leadership? Let's look at the gap. And, it took a while because she was so afraid to let go of how she defined herself before. I see coaching far more about identity, letting go of who I think I am right now to allow who I want to be to emerge. I think that's the significant part of coaching. And that's what makes coaching different. Then, I'm not going to tell you, you need to be different. Well, that's not going to work. But when I help people to see how what they're holding on to is the problem, is not serving them. So like, she was holding on to, yeah, but I always was very efficient. Where I'm at right now, they honor relationship more than efficiency. well, can you fit into this culture or not? You know, or there was a guy here I was coaching who was the expert in his field. Well, whenever he'd have meetings with his colleagues, he was the expert. I said, so you want to be seen as a leader, but you keep showing up as an expert. Do you want to be seen as a leader or the expert? You know, and he's like, ugh. I said, are you willing to let go of always being the expert in order to be the leader? It was a tough shift for him, but he did it and he got his promotion. You know, so that sense of who I thought I was, to release that and step into the unknown is very scary. People won't do it on their own. They need a coach to be with them in that uncertainty before they become, you know, who they want to be. And that's one of the great gifts of coaching. When I get new leaders, you know, that have totally been promoted and they have no experience, we always, in your contracting, that's your opportunity to talk about what you're going to do. If you don't do it up front, then you'll end up not coaching. But what I do is I contract that we may do some mentoring and coaching, but I'm going to separate it. I'm not going to blend it. So when we come together, we'll take a look at what you need, you know, and we'll do half the session coaching and half the session mentoring. And most of the time, after I, you know, mentor them a little bit, after a couple months, they've always said, okay, I don't need any more mentoring. Let's just stick with coaching, because they know the power of coaching. So don't blend it. You'll end up telling them what to do, and you just feed into that expectation. And I've had, you know, very experienced leaders just say, I just need you to tell me what to do. And I will clearly say, I cannot tell you what to do because every situation is different. What I tell you may not work for you. We have to look at it together. And you're a smart person. I'm going to help you see what you're not looking at, because I think that if we can just look at this a different way, you will know exactly what to do. And so I'm very clear and very firm about that, you know, and it's always worked out. So don't give in to, oh, you know, they just want me to tell them what to do. I don't do that. It's like, okay, I get it, but I need to hear how you see this situation. Again, even if I told you what to do, it may not be the right advice. So would you be willing to just, you know, explore it a little bit with me? Again, I'm so delighted. I wish I was there with you like I was. What was it, 2014? That was so delightful to be in the room with you. You know, I love the energy of coaches who want to constantly learn more and grow, because we're making a difference in this world, you know, and I know that the world is often a scary place, and there's no way of us knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, whether you live in Korea or you live here in Phoenix. I don't know. I don't know. But you as coaches, you know, you coach people's spirit, you keep them alive and looking toward the future, and what is the right action now that I can take to move forward into the unknown future. And we can do this together. So I honor everyone that's taken on coaching, and particularly, you know, you in Korea, that this is an important time for you to bring coaching to everyone, whether it's companies or family or your friends. How important this is for us all in order to keep growing together on this planet. So thank you and happy anniversary. And I'm so happy to be here with you. Mm-hmm.